Hare Krishna, Namaste, Chapter 17, which is entitled as Shraddha-traya vibhāga yoga, the three types of faith. Sloka 24. Tasmād om udāhṛtya yajña-dāna-tapaḥ-kriyāḥ pravartante vidhānoktāḥ satataṁ brahma-vādinām. After introducing the phrase Om Tat Sat in the previous sloka, Krishna proceeds to elaborate on each of those terms, Om, Tat and Sat. In this sloka, he takes up Om. From the previous sloka, we learned that Om is common. It can give both the results, either the Swarga Phalam or the Moksha Phalam. We also learned that the Vedas are associated with these three Shabdas. The Vedic karmas, the rituals, are also associated with these three Shabdas. And the Vaidikas, the follower of the Vedas who performs these rituals, are also associated with these three Shabdas. These were created and programmed in this manner by the Lord Himself at the time of creation. One may think, why suddenly Krishna is speaking about Om Tat Sat after speaking about the threefold classification of yajña-dāna-tapaḥ? Why he has to speak about these three terms, Om, Tat, Sat, which seem to be having no connection, or there's no flow from what has been discussed previously? We should know that Krishna does not speak anything which doesn't have connection. Bhagavad Gita is so nicely organized, which has connection from chapter to chapter, sloka to sloka, word to word. There is nothing which is out of context. In the 16th chapter, we learned that there are two classes of people, one who follows the Vedas and one who has faith are said to be divine by nature. One who doesn't follow the Vedas and doesn't have faith are said to be demoniac. When the 17th chapter started, Arjuna had a question. Krishna, some persons undertake karmas that are not mentioned by the scriptures. Setting aside the scriptural injunction, they do not follow the scriptural injunction, but they perform their work with great faith, earnestness. What would be their state? Do they abide in Sattva-guna, Rajoguna or Tamoguna? This was Arjuna's question, and later Krishna gave a direct answer to Arjuna's question. Only those sacrifices which are sanctioned by the scriptures, when it's done with complete faith, will yield result according to the gunas. Whereas penance, sacrifices, charity, which are not mentioned in the Shastra, however, it is done with complete faith, will not yield anything, even a little bit of happiness. Then Krishna explained on this topic further by classifying the Vaidika karmas, yaga, yajña, tapaḥ, dhāna, which are also classified under three modes, sattva, rajas and tamas. So the Vedas that mention these things, yaga, yajña, tapaḥ, dhāna, which are considered to be the Vaidika karmas, and the person who performs these activities were created along with Om Tat Sat. Just by following the Vedic karmas in the Vedas is not sufficient enough. If such rituals which does not have or uttered Om Tat Sat then it will not give the desired result. Many people perform many Vedic rituals, but there won't be mantras. Mantras are very important while one does the Vedic rituals. Any puja should start with the pranava and must end with the pranava. Pranava mantra is Omkara. So the connection is those who follows the Vedas with faith are divine people, and when they follow and practice or does the kriya, the ritual activities, they must utter these phrases. If it is not done, then it is not considered Vedic ceremony. For that reason, Krishna started explaining about these three phrases, Om, Tat, Sat. In that, Om will give either of the results, moksha or swarga, whereas Tat will give moksha phalam, Om Tat, whereas Sat, Om Sat will give the swarga phalam, or any material benefits that one desires. And this is what been explained in 24, 25, 26 and 27, elaborating on Om Tat Sat. And in 28th sloka, which is the last sloka of this chapter, Krishna gives an additional answer, that is ashastram. If one performs something which is not prescribed in the shastra but with faith, what result one gets? That is already been explained by Krishna. They get no result. Whereas shastriyam, but does based on the three modes, what result one gets? That was also discussed in this chapter earlier. What has not been asked by Arjuna or what has not been told by Krishna is one question, which is, if a person follows the injunction, follows the Vedic scripture to perform something but does not have faith, then what would be their benefit? What benefit do they get? That is explained in the last sloka of this chapter. We will learn about that when we get to that sloka. So, it has a connection. Om Tat Sat is not out of context. It is well connected with the flow. Now let's understand the meaning of this sloka. Tasmād, therefore, as I have ordained, that is, I am the creator of everything. Because the connection between the three classes of people, the Vedas and the Vedic rituals on one hand, and the word Om on the other hand, has been arranged at the time of creation by me. Tasmād. Krishna simply says one word, Tasmād, but it has so much meaning into it. From this we can understand the great personalities will not speak much. When they speak, it's right to the point with minimum number of words and sentences. Vidhānoktāḥ, according to scriptural regulation, brahma-vādinām, of those who chant the Vedic hymns. As we discussed in the earlier verse, brahmanaha are those classes of people who are eligible to perform the kriyas, the Vedic rituals that's mentioned in the Vedas. So the brahmana is not just the brahmana class, but it includes kshatriyas and vaishyas as well. They are called trivarnikas, brahmana, kshatriya and vaishyas, who are eligible and trained in the recitation of Vedic hymns and to perform the rituals mentioned in the Vedas by chanting Om. Yajña-dāna-tapaḥ-kriyāḥ, acts of sacrifice, charity and austerity as prescribed in the Vedas. This is very important. Those things that we do must be prescribed, supported by the Vedas. One may do yajña-dāna-tapaḥ in whatever way they would like to do, whimsically, with their own ideas. Therefore, Yes, yajña-dāna-tapaḥ must be performed, but it has to be performed in a way it has been prescribed in the Vedas, that which has been prescribed in the Vedas. Satataṁ, always. One who is qualified can chant Om with no restriction of time. Meaning, one can utter Om always, satataṁ, Om iti. The syllable Om, udāhṛtya. After uttering first, pravartante, proceed. Translation: therefore, transcendentalists undertaking performances of sacrifice, charity, and penance in accordance with scriptural regulations begin always with Om to attain the Supreme. When undertaking any rituals, yaga, yajna, etc., as prescribed in the Vedas, one should commence with uttering Om first. Those who have learned the Vedas well knows that Krishna is the indweller everywhere and are consciously aware that all the Vedic rituals are only different modes of worship of Krishna. And it is for this reason that Om is uttered first. It is also stated by great rishis that every Vedic ritual must be preceded and concluded with the remembrance of Krishna. Even if they may not have learned the Vedas, on uttering the syllable Om, they get blessed. One may desire for material goals, or one may desire for spiritual goals, but as long as the ritual that has been performed is prescribed in the Vedic literatures and it is connected with the pranava, that is Om, it gives a result. Now the question is, when should one utter Om? When should one chant Om? From the scriptures we learn that to perform the homa, yajna of certain things, it has to be on a specific recommended time. For example, to perform Jyotishtoma yaga, it has to be done during the Vasanta Kala, that is, during March and April time frame. Whereas, to perform Vajapeya yaga, it has to be done during Sharad Kala, late September, October, mid-November time frame. But to chant Om, it doesn't have any time frame. It can be chanted any time. That is what mentioned here in the Sloka as satataṁ. One may ask a question. It is understandable that Om is associated with Vedas and the Vedic karmas, but how is it associated with the performer, the Brahmanas? Well, it is he who chant Om during the kriya, during the process, the act. Therefore, obviously, it is associated with the performer as well. To conclude, when performing the sacrifices, tapas, dhana, any of those activities mentioned in the Vedas, the person who are eligible to recite the Vedas always first utter the syllable Om and then only proceed with the ritual. And this Om can give both Swargaphalam and the Moksha Phalam based on the performer's desire. In the next verse, Krishna explains the manner in which the syllable Tat gets connected. Tasmād Om udāhṛtya yajña-dāna-tapaḥ-kriyāḥ pravartante vidhānoktāḥ satataṁ brahma-vādinām. Thank you. Namaste. Hare Krishna.